Okay, so now let's look at this particular RC. Our propensity, our propensity to look out for regularities and to impose laws upon nature leads to psychological phenomena of dogmatic thinking, or more generally, dogmatic behavior. That means rule-based behavior. We expect regularities everywhere and attempt to find them even when there are none. Events which do not yield to those attempts, we are inclined to treat as some kind of background noise. And we stick to our expectations even when they are inadequate, and we ought to accept defeat. That means even though we know that our expectations are unjust or that we should accept defeat, we stick to our expectations. This dogmatism is to some extent necessary. That means this following of rules, or this having an accepted rule everywhere is kind of somewhat necessary. It's demanded by a situation which can only be dealt with by forcing our conjectures upon the world. That means whatever we think, this needs to be put onto the world. Then only we can, understand this. It can be demanded by a situation which can be dealt. Yeah. So this is demanding a situation which can only be dealt when we are forcing our own thinking, when we are focusing our own thoughts upon the world, moreover, or our own rules upon that world for the matter. Moreover, this dogmatism allows us to approach a good theory in stages by way of approximations. If we accept defeat too easily, we may present ourselves from finding that we were very nearly right. So basically what happens is this rule-based behavior comes in stages and in approximations. Okay, so if we are accepting defeat very easily, then we are stopping ourselves from finding out if we were right. It's clear that this dogmatic attitude, which makes us stick to our first impression, is indicative of a strong belief, while a critical attitude, which is ready to modify its tenets. Tenets are nothing but laws, which admits doubt and demands tests. It's indicative of a weaker belief. Now, according to Hume's theory and to the popular theory, the strength of belief should be a product of which admits doubt and demands tests. It's indicative of a weaker belief. All right, so this line seems very, very important. Let's go through this line once again. It's clear that this dogmatic attitude, which makes us stick to our first impression, that means this rule-based behavior. We also call this as heuristics. This heuristics make us stick to our first impressions, which is an indicative of strong belief. That means you have a very strong belief towards that. While if you have a critical attitude and you're trying to, or you're ready to modify the laws of your norm, of your rule, in that case, you are admitting some kind of a doubt and you're demanding tests, which signifies weaker belief. Okay, so basically he's telling that this norm-based behavior is kind of related to your beliefs. Now, according to Hume's theory and to the popular theory, the strength of belief should be a product of repetition. Thus, it should always grow with experience and always be greater in primitive persons. Okay, what does that mean? The more you are exposed to something, the more you start believing in it. But dogmatic thinking and uncontrolled wish to impose regularities, a manifest pleasure in rites and in repetition as such, is characteristic of primitives and children. And increasing experience and maturity sometimes creates an attitude and caution and criticism rather than of dogmatism. So your maturity, as in when it increases, it creates an attitude of caution, not only of rule followed behavior. That means you don't blindly follow rules, you follow rules with some caution in your mind. My logical criticism of Hume's psychological theory and the considerations connected with it may seem little removed from the field of psychology of science, but the distinction between dogmatic and critical thinking, or dogmatic and the critical attitude, brings us right back to our central problem. But dogmatic attitude is clearly related to tendency to verify our laws and schemata by seeking to apply them and to conform them, even to the point of neglecting refutations, whereas critical attitude is one of readiness to change, to test them, to refute them, to falsify them if possible. So basically, dogmatic belief is that you are not ready to change anything in your life. You're not ready to, what do you say, accept a new truth. Whereas critical attitude is, yes, you want to test it, you want to refute it, you want to falsify it. If you want, you can change also. This suggests that we may identify that the critical attitude with scientific attitude and dogmatic attitude with the one that's defined as pseudoscience. Okay, it further suggests that genetically speaking, the pseudo-scientific attitude is more primitive than and prior to the scientific attitude. That means this is a pre-scientific attitude. Okay. And this primitivity or priority also has its logical aspect. For the critical attitude, it is not so much opposed to the dogmatic attitude as superimposed upon it. That means it does not oppose it, but it adds on to it. Criticism must be directed against existing and influential beliefs in need of critical revision. Okay, what does this mean? Criticism, it needs to be directed against the existing influential beliefs. Okay, in other words, dogmatic beliefs. So what are dogmatic beliefs? Dogmatic beliefs are nothing but influential and critical existing beliefs. A critical attitude needs to be for its raw material as if it were theories or beliefs which are held more or less dogmatically. That means these critical attitude needs the raw material to be theories or beliefs which are more or less rule based. Okay, the science must begin with myths, and the criticism of myths neither with the collection of observations nor with the invention of experiment, but with critical discussion of myths and of magical techniques and practices. Okay, so by the previous words over here, let me just put on my what's this pen. Okay, give me one moment. Yeah, so from this part, I think here. Okay, so from here to here, we can understand this part. Okay, the link is there. But where are we? Yeah, the scientific tradition is distinguished from the pre-scientific tradition. That means critical attitude versus dogmatic attitude. In having two layers, like the latter, that means like the dogmatic attitude, it passes on theories, but also passes on a critical attitude towards them. That means pass a theory, but with a critical attitude. But with a critical attitude. Okay. The critical attitude, the tradition of pre-discussion of theories with the aim of discovering. I don't think we were here. Yeah. The theories are passed on not as dogmas, but rather with the challenge to discuss them and improve upon them. Okay. The critical attitude, the tradition of pre-discussion of theories with the aim of discovering their weak spots so that they may be improved upon, is the attitude of reasonableness or rationality. From the point of view here developed, all laws, all theories remain essentially tentative or conjectural. Okay, hypothetical, even when we feel unable to doubt them any longer. That means though you don't want to doubt them anymore, these are all going to be what? Nothing but reasonable theories. Okay, they're not going to become all rational. Before a theory has been refuted, we can never know in what way it may be modified. All right, I think we've understood this passage considerably well. What's he talking about? He's talking about our innate propensity, our innate nature of going forward and doing what? Accepting rule-based behavior. Okay. He instead says that we should approach this with a critical attitude, wherein when we are talking about the critical attitude, it means to say that we are obviously passing on theories, but we are trying to also refute them. Okay. Yes. So what's the first question in the context of the passage, in the context of science, according to the passage, the interaction of dogmatic beliefs and critical attitude can be best described as? Okay. Yes. So what's he talking about over here? He's talking about how can you talk about science, the interaction between science and dogmatic beliefs, or the critical aspects and the dogmatic beliefs. If we look at this one, just give me one moment, guys. A duel between two warriors in which one has to die. Yeah. So a duel between two warriors in which one has to die. The effect of a chisel on marble stone while making a sculpture. So, okay, the feedback in fertilizer industry being transformed into fertilizers. Okay, a predator killing its prey. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and first of all cancel off a predator killing its prey and a duel. Okay, obviously they're not telling that science and dogma are fighting each other. Okay, the effect of fertilizers on a sapling, we can leave this here. Okay, So the feedstock in a natural gas is not the right way to think about it, because we are making feedstock, we are making fertilizer out of the feedstock, which is not what we're doing from theological arguments or dogmatic beliefs. Okay, so amongst B and E, we should have our answer. The effect of a chisel on a marble stone while making a sculpture. So basically, what does a chisel do? Chisel kind of forms things. Okay, you fight it, you break it, but you form that thing. So this seems more appropriate than E. Okay, so our answer will be B.